Spring is in the air today. I can feel it. The birds are singing, the sun is out. It's just a great day to be alive. And you know, yesterday I was feeling pretty down. It was rainy and horrible. The clouds were grey and overcast all day. And I didn't really even feel like getting out of bed, to be honest. It was one of those grey, wintry days that just seemed to drag on forever. And as you do on those grey and wintry days, often your thoughts can get a bit stagnant, can't they? And you're just swirling around in your own mind. Do you remember those little Beyblades we used to have as kids? You know, the ones you like, the little spinners that you would fling off and they would fight each other and spin around and smack into each other. Well, that's kind of what my thoughts were feeling like yesterday, you know. It was almost like I dropped a load of these spinning Beyblades into an arena and they were all fighting with each other. And then today, it's just quiet. My mind is still and I just feel like I've got some good energy back. So what changed? What did I do to get myself out of that spot? And if you're feeling in a similar position, perhaps you've been struggling with some of those thoughts that just keep spinning around in your mind, what can you do to take some positive steps forward? Well, as you can see, I'm outside, and that is, to me, one of the best ways of getting through those periods where your thoughts are just all in your head. And I know it's difficult if it's wet and cold and rainy and grey to get outside, and often I don't manage that. But when the sun does come out and it does stop raining for a minute, take the time to find some space outside, and I feel like it really cleanses your energy, you know? Getting out into nature, getting some sunlight on your face, it changes your whole mood, it uplifts you in a way that nothing else does. I can spend all day in the house wondering why I feel so constricted and why it feels like I'm just boxed in my own mind. But as soon as I get outside and the sun is shining, suddenly those walls, that house just disappears and unshackles my mind, and suddenly I'm feeling great again. But the other thing that I chose to do was to journal. And you may have tried journaling in the past, you may not have, it's maybe something new to you. But I would really recommend giving it a go if you've got a lot of cluttery thoughts in your head. You see, when we start to write things down, when we get out those thoughts that are bandying around in our head, oftentimes it helps us to actually recognise them for what they are. Perhaps if we've been feeling guilty about spending too much time scrolling on social media or indulging in other bad habits. That was my case yesterday. You know, I spent way too long watching YouTube videos and scrolling through stuff on Reddit or Facebook and not doing anything productive, not creating anything, that you start to get in your own head about it. So I find often the best way is to just write it down. Write down what you're struggling with, what those thoughts are going on in your head, and it will help you to rationalise them. You see, there's something about getting your thoughts out on paper that just help you to frame them a bit better. It makes them real rather than just this intangible, worthy Beyblade going around in your head. And to me, I find that when I make the time to do this, to just declutter my brain and get it out onto the page, I start to spot patterns as well. Perhaps it is identifying, right, it's a pretty grey and horrible day today, and I've got these thoughts. I know that journaling, I know that getting them out of my head in the past has helped. So when this comes round again, I can use it as a tool that I know helps me. And it's not just the negative stuff in our head that journaling helps with. It can actually really benefit the positive side of our minds as well. Perhaps those goals that we're striving towards, that we've made some progress on, reflect on that in your journal. Write down how you've been building towards what you want to with your goals. Perhaps you've been working out consistently for the last month or so since the new year. That's really great. Write that down. Reinforce to yourself the things that you're doing well. And when you've got those negative thoughts, those failures that come up, and you express them on the page, it can help to analyse them. You don't need to dwell on them, but just recognise, okay, so I've gone a little bit off course here, and this is what I need to do to recorrect my path. It's like we're like heat-seeking missiles with our goals, you see. You know, we've got a target that we want to reach, but the missile doesn't go in a straight line. It has to constantly correct its course, and it may, veer off to one side, but then it realises that, okay, my target's over here, so I've got to flick back over to that. We're exactly the same, and journaling can really be that useful sounding board that helps us to realise, okay, I'm a bit off course here, or I've been a bit off course this week with perhaps my diet or my exercise as to where I want to go. And I'm talking about myself here as well. This last week I haven't been in the gym as much as I wanted to. My diet's not looked great either. I think it's great to be honest about that with you. You're not going to be perfect ever, but actually identifying when we do go a bit off course can be really, really valuable. And to me, I found journaling to be the best and most useful and most easy accessible way of doing that. So give it a try. And if you want a bit more of an in-depth look at some other habits that you can do to structure your life, and also how to actually structure journaling into your life as well, then check out the Simple Living Reset in the description. It's a 10-week program designed to help you to just come back into alignment with yourself, to build up a foundation of healthy habits that will transform you from perhaps a place of those negative thoughts constantly swimming around in your head, making no progress, constantly going around in the same circle, in the same cycle, and actually transform you to a place where you're making progress towards those goals. You're dialed in, but not in a way that's going to completely take over your life either. We want to do this sustainably. We want to do it in a way that we can be consistent, and that actually just builds a bit of a framework and a foundation for our life. So if that sounds of interest, check out the link in the description for that. But back on to kind of some of those negative thoughts that we can get stuck on. Perhaps it's something we regret about the past, or a conversation that we had with someone 7 years ago that still haunts us because we were really awkward. Those thoughts that get stuck in our minds and that we start to dwell on more and more and more. The more we dwell on them, the faster they spin. And what we are trying to do is to slow them down. So by getting them out in and onto the page, it really does help to take some of the speed out of those thoughts, take some of the bite out of those thoughts. We see them for what they are, and oftentimes they're a lot louder and a lot faster and a lot noisier in our head than they are when we get them out. Perhaps even just speaking to someone that you trust about them, a friend or a family member or a partner, can really help just to slow that thinking down, to get another perspective on it. And a combination of those, having a good support network around you, a good community of people that you can speak to about these things when you start to struggle, and actually to be able to recognise when you are struggling. It's not an easy thing to do. The first time I ever really struggled a lot with anxiety, I didn't know how to reach out for help. I didn't really know what was going on, why I felt the way that I felt, and it led to me having a breakdown, and I actually had to take a year out of university. And even this time last year, I was in a place where I was really struggling with my mental health. So much so that I ended up having a month off work because of my poor health. And I hadn't learned that I needed to get some of this stuff out of my mind. There's no point just constantly chewing over on it and dwelling on it. especially in winter when we've got that oppressive, dark, grey, cloudy, rainy, horrible weather that we can get sometimes. It doesn't help the thoughts, it doesn't help the mind. And so on a day like today, when you can feel that spring is in the air, it's so key that we enjoy it, we're present in that, and we take the positivity from those areas of life that we can. And that we reach out to people if we do need help. And it's one of the strongest things we can do, especially men, I find. There's a lot of talk about, being stoic and keeping all of your emotions bottled up and, not leaning on anybody. But the real strength of a man is to be able to open up and to talk to those people that he knows he has in his life that will support him when he is struggling, because we're all going to go through it. No man is an island. And I think the same can be true for women as well, but you guys are generally better at talking to each other about it than we are. But finding some form of that community to share how you are with, I think it's a real show of strength and courage and bravery even to do those things, because the first time you start to open up, it's not easy. And sometimes you can get hurt in that process, and then we tend to go even more insular and shut ourselves away even more. But if you can find that right person to speak to, and it may be a therapist, maybe a counsellor, or a mentor perhaps that you have in your life, it's going to be of such a benefit to you to share that experience, even if it is just with the journal, sharing it with the page. It helps to process those thoughts. It helps to switch yourself from being in that arena with those spinning Beyblade, horrible thoughts going on, and actually take yourself to a place where those thoughts aren't as loud anymore. They're not spinning as much. And so really, I think what I want you to take from this video is that we all do struggle. Even I struggle with my mental health, with those thoughts that can get on top of us, especially in the winter. But spring is around the corner, and no matter how low you're feeling today, tomorrow is a new day. The sun will shine again. And if you do feel like you're in this inescapable hole that you can't get out of, then talk to somebody. Find somebody that you trust and reach out to them, because really that is the best way to let go of some of that negativity. And if you can't do that, or if you don't feel ready to do that, then share it with the page, because it's the easiest and the most accessible way of dealing with some of that mental fog that you may be feeling. So yeah, if you want to take it a step further, as I said, the Simple Living Reset is linked in the description. It's the exact method I used to transform myself last year when I had my episode of really poor mental health, and to take myself to where I am today, where I'm in such a much better and healthier place. I still have those blips, they haven't gone away completely, but I'm in a place now where I can see them for what they are, and I have tools in my toolbox to deal with them. So as I say, it's the exact method that I used pretty much, and it's a 10-week course that I think will be really, really beneficial for you if you find yourself in a place where you just don't really know where to go. So check it out. And if you made it this far, do hit the subscribe button. It really does help me out. And take care. God bless.